She contracted for space in a beauty salon, not hair, nails, and redemption.
The manicurist says she quit her lease at a beauty parlor because the owner turned it into a shopfront church for gangsters and outcasts.
I signed a contract going into a salon, not a church.
I also was asked to leave.
Jill Villa claims her manicurist, Erica Caceres, a shopfront church for gangsters.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is number 103 on the calendar in the matter of Villa versus...
Miss Villa, you have a beauty salon, and according to your complaint, you rent space in that beauty salon to independent contractors.
Right.
Such as the defendant, who is a nail specialist, and how it works.
Okay. I have a salon. I do hair. I have 4 stations. I have pictures of those. And I have 1 space for nails.
And what's the financial arrangement that you have?
Basically, they just rent that space from me, and they take care of their insurance, their taxes. I went into a beauty supply store. I saw her nails. She does great nails. And I was looking for a nail technician at the time, and I asked her if she would be interested in...
Tell me your version of what the events were surrounding her leaving and breaking the second
Actually, Your Honor,
engagement.
they were very confusing. I had a staff meeting where I had 2 hair stations.
What did she do?
She said, I will not work with white women. I'm prejudiced.
Sir, I am correct, therefore, that when you say you reach out, your first lease was not up until May. Ms. Caceres, you got to get it straight. You signed this in December. I was missing something, you see, because you say you had no business. She said you had a lot of business.
No.
Well, Ms. Caceres, let me say, or trying to be saved. That's disconcerting. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's not what she bargained for. Being there is not a drawback. You should be able to rent that space in a relatively short period of time. I'm going to give you 5 months' worth of rent. Do you understand?
Yes.
You see to it that you re-rent the space. And if you can't re-rent the space, you better rethink your position about mixing your business. Re-rent the space. You better rethink your position about mixing your business plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
On the next, Judge Judy.
Nothing as far as I'm concerned. I never worked with her.
And I never knew you either.
Trust me, I've had 3 teenage sons. They all act like they're 4 years old.
He took his dad's truck for a spin with some friends, and something broke.
On the way to Del Taco, he stopped off and he was driving through a grassy knoll and hopped a couple curbs and stuff.
1 curb.
You weren't?
$100 in damages to the truck.
Order, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 127 on the calendar in the matter of Nowell versus West. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Nowell, you are the owner of a 4-wheel drive truck kind of car.
Ford Explorer.
According to your complaint, your 16-year-old son, that's you, sit up, was driving this 4-wheel drive truck, and the defendant's son, that's you, you sit down.
Okay, sorry.
Was a passenger in the front seat. According to your complaint, this young man damaged your car by pressing some sort of a button.
To change it from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive while the car was in motion. Truck was in motion.
And you say that because of that, there was damage to the car, $1,300 worth.
Yeah, it was in perfect working condition until the boys went for a 15-minute ride to the Del Taco.
Okay. You weren't in the car.
No.
Now up. What's your name?
Kai.
How long have you been driving?
About 2 months.
How long were you driving at the time that you had this young man as a passenger?
A couple days.
Days.
Yeah.
Who else was in the car other than the 2 of you?
Those 2 guys, Jeff and Chris.
So there were 4 of you all together.
Right.
So tell me what happened. You get in the car and your friends get in the car and you decide to take a little spin.
We were going to Del Taco to get dinner, and we were just, you know, driving, and Jared decided he wanted to push the 4-wheel drive button. So he kept hitting it, and I asked him to stop, and I told him to stop, and I slapped his hand away and tried to make him stop, but he's bigger than me, and I was trying to drive and do it at the same time, so.
Why didn't you stop the car?
Because I thought he was, I don't know.
Did you have any sense that that would damage the car?
I thought it would do it if he did it enough, but I didn't think it would do that much damage.
You wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, basically, you know, his friend was in the back seat, and he's not a friend with the defendant, Jared West. And so there's little intimidations, a new group of friends. He was trying to be in that thing, so he didn't just stop. He came home to us and told us when it happened, and that's the first thing he said to us was how disappointed he was that he let us down. He said I should have stopped the vehicle and just kicked him out. That's what he told us, and he was crying.
Right.
He was crying. He knew he didn't do the right thing.
Okay.
But he tried to do the right thing, but he didn't stop the car.
Your name?
Jared West, Your Honor.
So you're driving as a passenger in this car?
Yes, I was.
Do you drive?
Yes.
What kind of a car do you drive?
1993 Pontiac Trans Am.
What were you fooling around with the buttons for?
Well, what he forgot to mention was that on the way to Del Taco, he stopped off and he was driving through a grassy knoll and hopped a couple curbs and stuff. And I figured since he was going over a grassy knoll.
Going over a grassy knoll.
Yeah,
What does that look like?
There was like a park type area behind a Save-On drugstore. Mm-hmm. And he had jumped over a curb and went onto the grass. And I figured since he was going on the grass and stuff that he might want to be on 4-wheel drive. And then he said he didn't want to, you know, he didn't want me to do it. And then it just, I'm sorry to say, it sort of turned into a game after that. And I shouldn't have done it. You know, I realize that.
Don't put your hands up, sir. You weren't there. Did you go over a grassy knoll and go over some curbs when you were driving this car?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
I just made a mistake.
So it sounds to me as if both of you boys were acting irresponsibly with this car. Is that right?
Yes.
I
Is
agree.
that right?
Yes, I agree.
Well, Mr. Knoll, this isn't a very, very difficult situation, sir. Some damage was caused to your car. I assume you have the bills to show me what the damage was. Is that right?
Yes, the car's in perfect
Mr. West, I
working
don't even need to
condition,
speak to you.
Yes, you do.
Well, just a second.
Okay.
The reason I don't need to speak to you, sir, is because you originally, according to these papers that I received, spoke to Mr. Knoll, and at that time you said to him, pretty much, that both boys were wrong, and that you were prepared to pay for half the damage that was caused to the car.
I did some
Didn't you?
brief investigation before I made that offer. After they declined my offer, I had to do some further investigations, which I can show the court now, which show that what my son did not cause damage to that car.
Oh, well, I'd like to hear that, sir.
Here's a copy of the Ford Motor Company manual. And in the Ford Motor Company manual, if I may read it,
Sure.
it says to you, it says, the spin on the transmission transverse case on this 1991 Ford Explorer allows the shift between second high and 4-wheel high to be made at any vehicle speed. Your Honor, once the car is engaged in 4-wheel drive, the way you disengage this car from 4-wheel drive is to back the car up in reverse. So by pressing the vehicle 4-wheel drive button once, twice, or many times, it doesn't disengage from 4-wheel drive until you back the car up, and that's how it disengages. So once you pressed it one time, it was in 4-wheel drive, and it continued 4-wheel drive until they later came to Jack in the Box. At that point, they backed up and they heard a ratcheting type sound from the vehicle. That's when it was coming out of 4-wheel drive.
Can I see the estimates that you have, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Sure.
Chris is here to identify or to be witness to the fact that Ty has taken this vehicle to different parking lot locations, jumping curbs and parking barriers that he failed to mention to his dad also.
Mr. West, I wasn't there. You weren't there.
Correct.
This young man did something wrong. He's acknowledged that he did something wrong. Your son acknowledged that he did something wrong. They both did something wrong because they were playing around with a very expensive piece of equipment that neither one of them bought or paid for, belonged to the plaintiff. Now, Your mistake, Mr. Knoll, was that when you write here, the defendant offered a 50% settlement, which we rejected as a matter of principle since we didn't contribute in any way to the damage. That was a mistake. Your son contributed to the damage. He contributed to the damage in either one of two ways. Either because he, in fact, drove the car recklessly, and or he did not, at the moment that this young man decided to push the buttons on the car that he knew was wrong, he didn't take care of this expensive piece of property the way he should have, which was to stop the car and say, get out of the car. There's nothing to say. Anything that you say, sir, is going to be an excuse, which is wrong.
No, it's the truth. You're listening to some here, and I can't allow that to
Just,
happen.
Mr. Knoll,
I just need to have my say, that's all.
I'm not listening to anything. I'm not listening to what Ford Motor Company says, sir. I'm listening to what these two young men said.
Well,
and both of these boys seem to acknowledge that when they took your car out, they both did the wrong thing.
There's some lies over here, though. You haven't allowed him to speak what he saw.
Just a second. I listened to him. Let me tell you what he said, Mr. Knoll.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
If you buy them on the black market, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jim Knoll says his 16-year-old son, Ty, was driving his 1991 Ford Explorer when Gary West's son, Jared, unexpectedly threw the truck into four-wheel drive, causing $1,300 worth of damage. Gary says he doesn't believe what Jared did could have caused that kind of damage and refuses to pay for the repairs.
He said, one, he drove the car over grassy knolls, up and down curbs, and he knew that was wrong.
No, one curb.
You weren't there, sir. You better stop making excuses for your son. He seems like a very honest young man. You
So
keep
am I.
making excuses for him, and I guarantee you, you're teaching him a very bad lesson. He's standing here, he's being truthful.
So am I.
No, you're not, because you weren't there. You're making excuses. And if you were savvy and know what was going on, how many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
25, 16.
25-year-olds, a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Okay. Now you have a 16-year-old son. 16-year-old boys, when they're given a hot car, react differently than 16-year-old girls. So this is your first experience with a teenage son, right? Trust me, I've had 3 teenage sons. They all act like they're 4 years old, especially when they're in a car for the first time. 2 days he's had a license so that he could drive by himself. 2 days, and you give him your car. Stop making excuses for him, Mr. Knoll. The first, put your paper down, sir. Your son did the wrong thing. Without a 2-day trial with experts from Ford Motor Company and without mechanics here who were able to testify as to what the actual damage was and based upon their expertise what caused it, I have to rely on my sense of common sense. And don't say a word. And my sense of common sense is that your son did the wrong thing and that his son did the wrong thing. And the only one who's getting stuck is him because it's his car and he's got to pay the damage. So the damage to the car, and I am one lug nut, let me just look through the rest of these things. Okay. The total damage to the car is $1,248. And, sir, I am awarding you $624, which is 1/2 the cost of the damage, because I believe that both of these young men contributed to this damage. Both of them did the wrong thing with your precious piece of metal. And next time you won't do it. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, excuse you may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
What my son did no damage to his car. I have nothing to say to this man. I don't care to shake your hand. I think you're a jerk.
Okay.
And now the next case.
Parties on Shank versus Beckman. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Troy Shank bought Metallica tickets from 26-year-old Robert Beckman. Troy didn't have the cash, so he gave Robert a guitar for collateral. Now Troy claims the tickets were bogus and wants his guitar back.
Mr. Shank, you wanted to see a concert.
Yes.
What concert was it?
It was a Metallica concert.
A what?
Metallica.
Metallica. What
Yes,
is
ma'am.
that?
It's a group. Heavy metal band.
Why did you want to see that?
I like them.
Okay. According to your complaint, sir, the defendant here had some tickets for this Metallica
Yes.
concert. You wanted 3 tickets,
Yes.
but you didn't have any money.
Correct.
So you gave him a guitar as collateral for the
Correct.
tickets. What was the purchase price that you agreed on for the tickets?
$50 a piece. I wanted 3, so $150.
And you gave him the guitar.
Correct.
What happened?
It turned out later that the...
You went to the concert.
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
We went to the front. We showed them our passes and stuff, and they said that they were counterfeit, and they questioned us thoroughly where we got them, blah, blah, blah. But they took the tickets from us and they didn't let us in. They kicked us out.
That was when you went to present them to the ticket taker.
Correct.
So you asked him for the guitar back.
No, after that night, I came home and paged Robert, and he never called me. I paged him previous lots of times for a numerous of probably 6 months, and he never called me back.
Yes.
Do you want to hear my side now? Okay, what it was is I gave him these tickets and he gave me the guitar as collateral.
I understand that.
he
Let's
did
let's
not-
go back a little further. Where did you get the tickets from?
I purchased them off of a student at Saddleback College.
And what did you pay for the
I
tickets?
paid $100 a piece for them. And then he wasn't supposed to owe me $150. He was supposed to owe me $350. The problem was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. After the concert, I finally get this letter of court. He calls me and says, well, do you have any, like a VCR or TV or anything you can give me as collateral? I said, why? You know, you didn't, how do I know you didn't get into the show? I got on the show, my girlfriend got on the show, my brother got on the show. How do I know you did not get in?
You may have had somebody who let you in and wasn't looking carefully. They didn't. They had a problem.
I don't understand. I don't understand how they could have a problem.
They had a problem, sir.
Out of all the people that I know that went, everyone got in but them.
When you buy tickets from the concert itself, when you go up to the gate and give them money and buy tickets, then you know you're getting legitimate tickets. If you buy them on the black market, which is from somebody at school, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Troy Shank claims the concert tickets he got from Robert Beckman were counterfeit. He wants the replacement value of a guitar he gave him for collateral.
I believe the fact that you didn't get in with these tickets, and the law is very clear. You had a contract. You were going to pay the money to go to the concert.
Correct.
That's your contract. They didn't get into the concert, and therefore they got nothing in return for their money or their guitar, so you have to give them back the guitar. Do you understand?
I don't have the guitar anymore.
Why not?
I sold it for the money that they owed me.
They didn't owe you any money.
Well, what the...
Let me see the receipt.
I don't have the receipt.
You don't have the receipt, you don't have the guitar. When did you sell the guitar?
Probably about a month after the concert.
But they buzzed you, they paged you immediately.
Well, that night, I did not have my pager on me. I'd never take my pager to a concert. So, I mean, how would I return it?
You got as many excuses as Carter has pills, sir. I don't want to tell you something. Unless you straighten out, this isn't the last court you're going to be in. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do. But the agreement was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. He did not pay me my money a week before the concert.
Well, let us assume.
So
let me tell you. Let me
it-
tell you why, Mr. Beckman. You're standing there and I'm sitting here. Let me explain why. If I believed your story that the concert tickets were more than what they claim, and if they paged you, you would have called them back lickety-split because you would have thought to yourself, he's calling to make arrangements to pay me the money that he owes me. That's what would have gone on in my head if somebody owed me money. I better answer this page right away because I want to get my money. You, however, didn't have a page. You lost your page. You were busy. It was raining. It was snowing. A whole bunch of other excuses why you didn't return his page. And the truth of the matter is, you knew that there was trouble. because there's no other reason for you not to have returned this page. All right, so you're guilty as charged. Now, the next question I have is, this bill for $1,000 for a guitar seems to me inflated. So let's talk about it.
Okay. The guitar,
How much did you pay for the guitar, and when?
I paid $748 for it.
Let me see the bill.
I do not have the receipt. My mom is here to testify. She's the one who bought it.
Fine. I'd like to hear from her. You sit down. Could you step up, please?
I have a...
Don't give me A. You have a mother.
Okay.
Mothers, I believe. Tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Anita Shank, Troy's mother.
Did you purchase this guitar?
Yes, I did.
And when did you purchase it for him?
In '95.
How much did you pay for it?
Approximately $800.
He says $748. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Fine. Okay. You look like a nice young man who may have a bright future. Don't try to be a shortcut artist.
Well,
It never pays off, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
Okay. When I gave him the guitar, it was in a guitar case. And inside that case was a guitar tuner, a guitar pedal, and a metronome, which I have the retail value, and that's why I sued for $1,000. It came over all that stuff that I gave him.
Why did you give him all that stuff?
The guitar was in a guitar case, and the guitar case has like a little pouch. I just keep my guitar stuff in there, and that was the only thing worth value. I just gave him the whole set. So that's why I'm suing for $1,000.
Did it have all of that equipment in it?
I don't know.
What?
I didn't even bother to look in it. I mean, it was just collateral for the tickets, you know?
That's why I was suing
No,
for $1,000.
I understand it was collateral for the tickets, but again, you want me to believe that somebody gave you collateral, you sold it, and when you sold it, you didn't open up the case, didn't show
No,
it to
I
anybody.
looked in it. I mean, it just had like the strap for the guitar and, you know, little whammy things for the guitar and stuff like that.
Do you go to school?
Yes, I do.
College?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah, what is yeah?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She didn't know where the dog was for how long?
2.5 years.
And for 2.5 years, Irene's children grieved and worried about the fate of their beloved dog Buddy.
You have no right to take her animal. And then you lied to her.
Come on. Sit. Good boy.
At last, her former fiancé, John Lamos, claiming that he stole her pet dog Buddy and secretly kept him for 2 years. John says he refuses to return the dog because it was neglected.
Order, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 251 on the calendar in the matter of Hipsher versus Lemos. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Gentlemen, have a seat.
This is a really interesting case. Miss Hipsher, this is your dog, Buddy.
That's my dog, Buddy.
Don't cry yet, okay? Because you have to tell me what happened.
I know.
So take a deep breath. You want some water?
Yeah, I'll take some. Thank
Okay.
you.
According to these papers, you and the defendant lived together with your 2 children. I assume that these are your 2 kids.
Yes.
The relationship was going south. You, Mr. Lemos, wanted her out of your house with the 2 children.
Correct.
And she was living there with the kids and Buddy.
Exactly.
According to your papers, you started eviction proceedings against her, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into why. And sort of at the tail end of these eviction proceedings, it was about 4 months into trying to get her out of the house. According to your answer, you went over to the house and took her dog, right?
Correct.
You say you have a good reason for going over and taking the dog, but you took her dog. She didn't know where the dog was for how long?
2.5 years.
And you had seen him during those 2.5 years?
I have telephone records otherwise and stuff to prove that him and I were in communication over the telephone, visiting each other at each other's homes, the whole 9 yards.
Had you discussed Buddy?
Yes, a lot.
When you came home and found Buddy missing, what did you do?
I immediately called John at his mom's house and stuff, and at which time he told me that he had no idea where my dog was. He had no inclination of, he says, Irene, I'm sorry, but no, I didn't have anything to do with that. I feel really bad. Made it sound like really personal and stuff. So I went, other than to the Contra Costa County Animal Control, and I set up, that's when I started setting up the missing reports or otherwise and stuff. I searched the premises, went around the blocks, went around all streets, even made up signs. But that's my family member. That's
okay. How long had you had Buddy at that time?
I had Buddy for 7 years before John took him.
Okay. Now, how did you ultimately find out that Mr. Lemos had your dog?
My son Joshua was playing with his new girlfriend's son. I have no idea what his name was, but he had mentioned, Joshua asked his son, how many dogs does John have? And the boy came back with 2. Well, John automatically saw that the conversation was happening, pulled away the child from my son and stuff, and told him, no, you gotta whatever, took him back, and then when the 2 confronted again, the 2 children, the boy says, oh, no, I made a mistake. John only has 1 dog. He has Zeus.
So then your son came home and told this to you?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And this was at his house, place of residence. I was visiting the neighborhood.
Okay, at his house, but not his mother's house?
No.
Which is where the dog finally ended up?
Yes.
You're his mother, correct?
Yes.
So tell me how you confronted him, ultimately.
Well, I went to his house and stuff. Neither one of these 2 people were home, and whenever I looked over the fence, that's when I saw Buddy.
So you went to his mother's house?
Yeah, and that's whenever I found out that's whenever see, at first and stuff, I didn't let John know that what was being said between the kids or that I even questioned it, because if I did, he would have just ultimately ran with my dog. So I took it upon myself and stuff without even questioning him or without saying anything to him. I showed up at his mom's house knowing that she was at work and he was at work, showed up and just peered over the fence.
So then after you found out that they had your dog, what did you do?
I went to the San Leandro Police Department and filed a case against him and stuff, which I have copies of or otherwise. It's 9711035. Okay.
Did you call them and say, I want my dog back?
Later on that day.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke to John at first. I could just hear her in the background saying how she was going to kill my dog before she gives him back to me. She's going to put my dog down. I could hear her screaming in the background, yes, John. And then all of a sudden and stuff, he's telling me and stuff. At first, it was a good conversation. It was like, oh, no, how you doing? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I asked him, I says, John, I says, I heard you had my dog. You know, he says, Irene, I don't have your dog. I haven't seen him. I says, John, I was there. Ask your mom if I went by, because I went by her place of employment. She was standing outside, and I went by in a nice little cute little red car and stuff, and honked my horn, and she's all, not knowing who the hell I was, because I'm sure she would have given me the #1 finger first. But she waving at me and everything and stuff. I called it up.
All right, Mr. Lemos. You took her dog, right?
Yes, yes.
I'll hear your story.
Okay, the reason why I did take the dog was like the last 3 to 4 weeks before she finally got out of my house. She wasn't hardly even around at that time. All of her belongings were still there, but there was numerous times that I would go to my house, check on my house. We couldn't live together, of course, so I was staying at my mother's house. There was numerous times that I'd go out there and I would see that the dog had no food or water. And there was a couple of times that I had went out to my house, spent the night out there, and she never was there. I don't know where she was. I had no way of contacting her because I didn't know where she was, going from point A to point B. And so I had felt that the dog was being neglected because when I would go there, he wouldn't have any food or water. And I felt compassion for the dog, and I thought that I could give him a better home which she could provide, because the last 4 weeks, it seemed to me like she could have cared less about the dog, or even trying to get out of my house, for that matter.
Mr. Lemos, I read your answer, sir. You know, judges are supposed to be able to relate to situations with a certain amount of common sense. Let me suggest to you what my common sense made from your answer. Let's pick a month. Let's say in December you decided to separate. She's living in your house with her 2 children. She says, I'm not moving now. You go down to municipal court, housing court, and file papers to have her evicted. She gets an extension of time. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what I did.
Because the judge looks at her, looks at her 2 children, and says, I'm not going to put her out on the street tomorrow, even though it's his house. These people lived together for 2 years. She needs a little time to relocate. Meanwhile, you're getting more and more annoyed. So a month goes by, and 2 months go by, and you're getting hotter and hotter. And 3 months go by, and finally in month 4, you decide that the family pet is being neglected. So I'm going to take the family pet. Maybe next time, if you don't move, one of your children will be missing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When John first took him, I was crying because he was my pal.
And later today,
I hope that in the future you make your dream come true and you really become Carlotta.
This was not my dream.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 32-year-old Irene Hipscher is suing her former fiancé, John Lemos, for stealing her pet dog, Buddy, and keeping him for over 2 years. John says he only took Buddy because Irene was neglecting the dog.
Now, maybe your compassion for the dog was mixed with a little animus towards the plaintiff, but you have no right to take her animal. And then for 2.5 years, you lied to her. If you thought there was a legitimate question of animal neglect, you have the right to call authorities and say, this animal is being neglected. You didn't do that. How come?
Well, at that particular time, before that period, she was still around with the dog. Up to the last of 3 to 4 weeks, I didn't see her that much anymore.
So if you didn't see her that much anymore,
I mean, as far as
the few times that you went by the house, sir, and the dog was there, why didn't you call animal control and say, look at this dog. It's all skin and bones. It hasn't been fed. It hasn't been watered. It's being neglected. Then they would have taken the dog. And in all probability, if you were a person who was responsible, you might have gotten her dog. But the dog wasn't skin and bones, right, sir?
No, he wasn't.
No. So the question is, now what do we do with Buddy?
Oh, please.
The dog is her dog.
Yes.
The dog belongs to her. He brought the dog to you? Madam.
Yes.
Why don't you step up here? You're his mother.
Yes.
When he brought the dog to you, what did he say?
Just about what he told you, that he felt that the dog wasn't being treated right because there wasn't any food or water. And so he said that he felt that we could take care of the dog better, and he hadn't seen Irene. He didn't know where she was, so...
And you didn't question it?
No, I didn't.
Did you tell her you took the dog?
No.
So you've become attached to the dog, too?
Absolutely.
But the dog is hers.
I agree.
So it has to go back to her. Yes. Period. That's the end of discussion.
All right.
Yes, sir.
You know how she said it was being treated well? Her backyard was way worse than what we have now. They have apples all over the ground, not even grass.
I don't even have an apple tree anymore.
Tell me your name.
Jason.
Jason.
Pimentel.
Do you think this dog knows who you are?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let the dog go.
Come on, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here. Yes. Oh, yes. No, that's okay, boy. That's okay, boy. It's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Don't hit him too hard, Jason.
Oh, yeah. That's okay, Bobby's. That's okay, Bobby dog. Yes, it is.
Now, the question is, Mr. Lemos.
Stay.
You did the absolute wrong thing, and I think that you traumatized not only the plaintiff, she's an adult.
Dog.
But these 2 little kids.
They weren't even there.
That's all right. The dog's going to have to get used to, let the dog go. The dog's going to have to get used to your family all over again. But you traumatized two little children who were really innocents, and you traumatized them because you were annoyed that their mother wasn't moving out of your house fast enough.
Buddy.
True.
Buddy.
So,
The kids weren't there the whole time.
for want of a better word, sir,
Buddy.
you have to be punished.
Buddy, come.
So I'm going to punish you to the tune of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Buddy.
Out the back door to your right.
Basically, instead, it all boils down to he's a mommy's boy. He has a brand new house. He's been living with mommy for the past 2.5 years.
No, I
and him and I've
haven't.
been broke up. Yes, you
No,
have.
I'm back at my house.
And now the next case.
Parties on Innocente versus Sierra Olivia. Step forward, please.
Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
This is a case about principle. Plus $100.
Exactly.
What's your first name?
Celeste.
Celeste. And your first name, sir?
Jesus.
You are an actress by profession, or is that your avocation?
Well, I wish I earned more money at it, but it is my profession.
Okay. According to this complaint, Jesus offered you a role in a play that he was producing, correct?
Yes, correct.
A big role.
Mm-hmm.
And that play was to be performed at a small theater in September. I believe September 13th and 14th.
12th and 13th.
According to you, sometime later, he advised you that you didn't have the part, and you had to audition for it again.
No, he never advised me that I didn't have the part.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
He said you had to audition for it again. He had some problems with the production.
He didn't say that I had to audition for it again.
What did
Your
he
Honor.
say?
He did say that auditions would be held. He left a message on my machine in late August, and then when I called him back, he said there were so many new parts and so many people had dropped out. He asked about my availability at that time. And then I told him, well, I'd been working on it for 2 months, and you have to understand, he initially called me to audition. He had gotten my name, and he said, well, you know, I heard you were a very good actress, and I would like you to audition. So at that point, having invested all this time and energy, I said yes. And in fact, the venue had been changed to a better theater, a more inconvenient date. But then I did say, yes, I was still interested.
So you did go and audition again?
Well, no, the director, finally he had gotten a new director because the previous director had dropped out. So the director never did answer my calls or return my calls, and finally I did get a hold of him, and he said, well, rehearsals will begin on next Monday. This was September 1st, Labor Day, and then there will be every Monday and Tuesday until the performance. And then that Friday he called me back and said there were going to be auditions Saturday and Sunday, and I said, excuse me, auditions? I had been working on this role for 2 months, and Jesus had hired me to do this role. And he said, well, then come in and meet me. And then the next morning, being Princess Di's funeral day, I get in there. I was already depressed. I get in. I heard somebody reading for the role, and then I asked Jesus about it, and even then he said, oh, no, you are Mama Carlotta. And then he said, you are the best I've seen so far. And, you know, at that point, the director still didn't, you know,
ultimately, he chose somebody else, the director.
The director told me that Jesus had never told him that the role was precast.
Okay. So he hired somebody else.
Exactly, yes.
And they had promised you a $100 stipend for this performance.
Yes.
You, sir, according to your answer, had some problems with the original production. Is that right?
Yes, I had problems that my theater, which I had for the 12th and the 13th of September, I thought I had already made the deal with the director of the Chicano Center. And it resulted that at the end, he said on July, when I called him, Jesus, I'm very sorry. I didn't put you on the list your event is not in my calendar. So I felt terrible because I had already promised my actors that they would be performing on the 12th and the 13th.
Now let me stop you right there, sir. When you say you promised your actors, this is one of the actors that you promised.
I did.
Now, could you, and then you went out and had to hire a new place and a new director.
That's right.
So you hired a new director.
Yes.
You did the hiring.
I
Why
did.
didn't you tell the new director that this lady had the part?
I told him that I already had 6 actors. I had already lost 6 of them. And the director insisted on being himself Maximilian, or else he would not be part of the production. And then it seemed to me like everybody wanted to be Maximilian, all the men wanted to be Maximilian, and all the ladies wanted to be Carlotta.
Just a minute. Am I correct, sir, that you had already promised her the role of Carlotta?
Yes.
Well, so if everybody wanted to be Carlotta, what difference does it make? This is your production. Why didn't you just say to the director, you can cast anybody else that you want for other roles?
Yes.
But I already have promised this lady, and for 2 months she's been working on the role of Carlotta. Is there any reason why you didn't say that?
Because I did not ask Celeste to work on the role for 2 months.
Ah.
I told everybody that their commitment would be for only the 2 first weeks of September.
For the performance?
For the performance
No,
only.
just a second.
And the rehearsals.
But she's an actress, so she was working on the part. Did you give her the script?
Yes, I did.
So she had the script from the
Yes.
time you first promised her the role.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
As far as I'm concerned, sir, you had an obligation when you hired a new director to tell him that at least one of these parts was already promised to this lady, because you had given your word to her. She, as a result of your promise, went out and performed her job, which was to familiarize herself with the role, to work on it for a couple of months. It was within your control to see to it that she got the part, because the director was also your employee. And you could have said to the director, pick anybody else you like, sir. Carlotta's spoken for. You didn't do that.
I did not, because he said, I am going to choose the actors.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for. The commitment was for $100?
Yes, it was.
That's what you're suing for?
Yes.
Vindicated, $100 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If you were so well prepared for Carlotta, why did you fail in your second audition?
Well, you know, failure is a question of perception. Let me put it that way.
He pulls me by my hair.
Did you ever pull her hair?
No. They fell in love when she was just 15 and had a child. Now it's falling apart.
This 18-month-old baby. They have 2 morons for parents. You screw around with a teenager and make a baby with her, and that doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy. You pissed her. You're suing her because you say she purposely kicked your car, causing damage to it.
Yes.
And I have your complaint against him for several $1,000s. I think you're suing for $3,000 because you say he assaulted you.
Yes.
From what I gather from these papers, you 2 children have a child.
Yes.
And how old is this child?
She's 16 months.
How old are you?
23.
And how old were you when you had this baby?
Oh, it was right after my 16th birthday.
Were you
Or
living
right
at home?
after my 17th birthday. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Were you living at home then?
I was living with him, and then like about 2 weeks before I had the baby, I was getting no support from him, so I moved back in with my mom to get some support. Then right after I had the baby, then I moved back in with him.
You live at home?
Yes, I moved back there about 4 months ago.
So you live with your mother?
Yes.
And father?
No.
Just with your mother?
Yes.
Actually, I took responsibility for her for 3 years when her mother didn't want responsibility of her anymore, gave up custody of her, and I basically took her in for 3 years. When she was 9 months pregnant, her mother said that she didn't want her to move back home. She said that there was shelters out there that would take care of a teenage mother.
What'd you have problems with your mom about?
Just normal, rebellious. I wanted to go out. She wanted me.
You have a
not
drug
going.
problem?
No.
Never?
No.
You hesitated for a minute.
I have done, yes, I have done drugs before in the
Right.
past.
Know that. And you, sir?
Drug problem? No.
Yeah. Have you done any drugs?
No.
Was she doing drugs when she was living with you?
Yes, she was smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm. What about when she was pregnant?
I don't believe so. Not that I can remember.
What
no.
about after the baby was born?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you separated, and then this incident occurred with your car. You want to tell me your version of it, sir?
Well, I was going to pick up a friend which lives close by to where she lives. And on the way back, we happened to see her walking with my daughter. So I stopped to, see my daughter. And
What time was this, sir?
It was about 9:45 p.m. She lives in a kind of a bad neighborhood. I was concerned for the welfare of my child. She said that she never walks the baby at that time, but obviously she does. When she came over to us, she asked us where we were going. I said we were going to go out. And she spit on us. She spit on me and him through my car window.
Let's take this step by step. And I want you to understand something. I'm very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they keep me here. Not because I'm gorgeous. Right, Bird?
Well, that's a good enough reason, Judge.
I stopped my car. She came over to where my car was. I opened the door to the car, got out, saw my daughter.
What did you say to her?
I said, what are you doing with the baby out at this time at night?
And what? Okay, so right away we got a problem. You're saying to her, what are you doing outside with the baby? And what did she say to you?
She said that she was going to call me at a payphone across the street.
That was her answer?
Mm-hmm.
So far, is that correct?
No.
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 So then what happened?
So then after I, said goodbye to my daughter, I tried to leave. I got into my car. She put the baby stroller in front of my car door so I could not shut it. So I calmly got out and, moved the stroller away, shut my door. She said, where are you going? Going out. She spit on us. And then when I was pulling out, she started kicking my car.
What kind of car was this?
It's a Chevy Cavalier.
Okay, and I assume you have pictures to show me.
Yes.
Could I see them, please?
I also have an estimate.
I'll see that too. Okay. Now let's hear your version of the events and what you say happened on that evening.
Okay, normally I don't take my daughter out that late, but she was still up. I was going to get a treat for us from the store, about 200 feet from my apartment door to the Circle K across the street, okay? Walked to the store, got my things, was halfway across the street from the store and my apartment complex when I see him drive by. He makes a U-turn, turns into my apartment complex, and gets out and says, what are you doing with my daughter out this late, blah, blah, blah. Just starts totally harassing me. Yeah, I said, I'm not doing this in front of my daughter. So I start walking away. That's when he grabs me by my hair. I didn't know he was coming, because it was all quiet. He just grabs me by my hair and proceeds to just grab me by my arm, like kind of drag me on the ground. I skinned my knee. Then I got up, started to leave again. He kicks me in the stomach. I lose my wind, I gather myself up, and then by then I grab the stroller, start running for my apartment. I yell back, I am calling the police, you're not getting away with this one. He yells, I have 2 witnesses that say I didn't touch you. Okay, the whole time this was happening, this guy over here sitting in the chair, he was laughing. He sees a girl getting beat up, he's laughing, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby who happens to have 2 morons for parents.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada is suing the mother of his child, 18-year-old Karen Dacey, claiming she kicked and damaged his car during an argument. Karen says Scott is abusive towards her and denies kicking his car.
So did you go up and call the police?
Yes, my mom was just going to bed, whatever. She said, you know, Karen, you know, I really don't want to deal with this tonight. So she asked me to make the phone call from across the street at the Circle K. I have a police report. They came out and...
You mean your mother told you, don't call from my house, go across the street? Is that what your mother told you? I'm asking you a question. Your mother told you, don't call from the house.
She didn't say don't. I could. She didn't... I told her I was going to call across the street. No, she didn't say. She was just saying, you know, why do we have to deal with this? Why does this always have to happen? You know, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, just, you know, I was mad. I was like, just forget about it. I'll just call from across the street. I just don't want to bring her into any more. I've had so many problems with him. Everybody has to witness it around me. That's why she's here. I lost my job because she didn't want to witness this anymore. Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Teresa Garner.
You said she was your nanny for a while. Do you mean she was your babysitter?
She was a babysitter. I have 3 children. I met Karen through Scott. He used to work at the mall that we have a plant rental and maintenance company, and we did the plants. I met Scott there. After Michelle was born, she didn't want to go back to work at Panda Express, a little fast food place, so I gave her a job where she could have the baby there.
Where she could have the baby at your place of business?
Right, where she was taking care of my kid, she could have the baby. Several times, Your Honor, she's come over crying. I took the baby away from these two in one incident because they're fighting all the time in front of my house. I told him neither one of them could have the baby. When they're acting like that, he had her outside, was trying to push her in the car, same thing, pulling her hair, calling her names. The verbal abuse went on forever. Little codes on her beeper, 187, which I guess is murder or something, and all this other kind of junk.
Have you ever seen him put his hands on her?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Sit down.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Absolutely. Step up here. Tell me your name.
Kevin Meimersdorf. When this occurred that night, also when she was all trying to get him away from the car to tell him, like wanting to talk to him privately, and he was like, "No, I got these witnesses. You can say whatever you have to say right here by the car."
You think that that's helpful to him?
Well,
what you just told me?
Well, yeah. I'd like
to say You think that that's helpful?
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Where were you going?
We're going to my brother's house to pick him up.
And where does he live?
He lives on Chop and Boulder.
And how far is that from where the defendant lives?
I'd say maybe a quarter mile, if that.
Mm-hmm. And is there another way of getting there other than passing by the front of her apartment complex?
There is. Yes, there is. Yes,
Good.
there is.
So you could have gone a different route.
Right.
Who was driving?
He was.
So yet he chose to drive by her apartment complex. Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when he got out of the car, the first thing he said to her is, "What are you doing outside at 9:15 with the baby?"
Right.
But he didn't say it in that kind of tone, did he?
No.
No.
I mean, well, he just exactly the tone what you just said. What
Oh,
are
you
doing?
think so? Is that what you remember, sir? Is that as true as everything else
Yes,
that you're going
ma'am.
to tell me today?
Yes,
That in a very calm tone, he said to her, "Why are you out with the baby at 9:15?" Is that the tone?
Well, it might have been a little bit, a little bit more higher than that. I mean, definitely.
Might
I mean,
have been,
not at a soft tone, but I mean, he's like, "What are you doing at this late at night?" Basically, at 9:30 at night, in this neighborhood.
And when he said that to her, sir, was there any profanity dotting his words? Like, did he say, "What the blank are you doing blank out at this blank hour"? Does that sound, ring a bell?
No, ma'am.
So far, I'm not getting the ring of truth from you, sir.
You're getting everything, all the truth.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because it does, I mean, I'm not saying she's terrific.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, she's not terrific.
Right.
Right? And I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby, who happens to have 2 morons for parents, right? Her, because she doesn't know whether she's here or there or where she's going to be or what she's going to do or anything else. She's a baby. And you, who enjoy a reasonable order of visitation from 2 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night, 4 days a week.
I haven't been able to enjoy it because I haven't been getting my visitation.
Well, then you go to court, sir, and you deal with it.
I am. I'm in the process of doing that.
Then that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to go around where she's living and confront her.
Oh, but that was not my main priority to go over
I
there.
didn't ask you whether it was your main priority. It shouldn't have been any priority. What you do is, if you've had periods of domestic violence and negative interaction with her, you stay away from her.
I've never, but she comes to my work also and harasses me there.
Just a second. I don't doubt that she does that.
And calls my house and comes by my house.
Listen to me. I don't doubt that she does that. Because I think she's a flake. I do.
She is.
I believe she's a flake. This lady knows she's a flake, right?
Young.
Young.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Flaky, young, too young to have an 18, to be
right.
responsible for an 18-month-old baby.
I agree.
There's no question about that. There is also no question in my mind, sir, that this evening wasn't as you have indicated to me, that you were just driving by to go pick up a friend and all of a sudden you saw her. You went by her apartment complex and it was the wrong thing to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you've taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada claims the mother of his child, Karen Dacey, kicked his car. Karen says she has a restraining order because Scott is abusive.
Mr. Rizzuto, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. You screw around with a teenager and make a baby with her, and that doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy. It's going to be harder. You have a child, and if you think that she's incapable of taking care of this child, and you may be right, and you may be a more appropriate custodial parent, the way to deal with it is through the court, not in the street at 9:45.
I feel, you know, I'm concerned about the welfare of my daughter. That is the main
Then,
priority
sir, you have to deal with that through the courts.
I've been dealing with it for 5 months and I haven't got one bit of satisfaction. I haven't even got a court date yet.
The court system didn't make your baby. Yeah. Judge didn't get in there that night. That's right. You did. And you were old enough to have known better.
Yes.
You were, in the eyes of the law, an adult. She was a minor in the eyes of the law. So, when you went to the police, did they arrest him?
No, he was long gone.
And you, sir, did you make a police report?
No, I kind of just went home because I didn't want to deal with her anymore.
Did you ever pull her hair?
No.
Never?
No.
You mean she's lying when she says she saw you pull her hair?
She's also lying about her taking my child. She's never, I don't even trust her with my child over there because she smokes just as much dope as she does.
Can I say something in my defense? No,
I don't think she's capable of taking care of her own kids.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Well, I think that you two young people better decide that you're going to straighten up your lives because you made a baby, and the baby is the only innocent in this situation.
This is a picture of what looks exactly like a cigarette burn or...
And I've also...
Shh. Would you let her finish?
On my daughter, when she came home from visiting with him, I changed her diaper into her pajamas right away, and I noticed this. He smokes, his whole family smokes, okay? And about the drugs and smoking, whatever, I have not even done any drugs since I've been with him. And the
Madam,
reason why
let me tell you something. A, he never burned your baby with a cigarette. Never happened. You could have a picture there, you could have 20 pictures there. I'm telling you, I've been in this business for 1/4 of a century. This man never purposefully injured that child, nor did he permit anybody else to purposefully injure that child. Now, he may have done lots of negative things to you, but he never purposely hurt his daughter. So you may be able to convince some other family court judge or some other moron that he did with the picture that you're going to show him. But I'm telling you, he never purposely hurt your daughter.
How would you
2.
know that?
How would I know it? Because I'm very smart. And I'm smarter than you'll be if you live to be 500. And I'm also prepared to tell you that you do smoke dope, and you have smoked dope more recently than from the time you first met him. And if I sent you today to have a hair follicle test, I guarantee you that that hair follicle test would bear me out. And if you are willing to go, we will make the arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test, because the hair follicle test will establish when the last time, if you've smoked drugs or taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Would you like me to make the arrangements right now, and I can have a hair follicle test done right now?
All I have to say to that is, not unless he's getting one. This guy has done more than marijuana.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Why am I going to show something it was less than 6 months ago, because me and him only broke up 3.5 months ago. Why am I going to show what is wrong with me or whatever if this guy's sitting here, oh, I don't do drugs. This guy is the king of selling drugs, doing drugs, whatever.
Listen to me.
So why do we care about what I'm doing?
Why? There's a very easy answer to that question, madam. Because right now you are the primary custodial...
What I've done.
Hey! Right now you are the primary custodial parent of an 18-month-old child. That's why it's more important. And so I asked you a simple question. I said, do you want me to make arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test? Your answer was no. Good. This is the judgment of the court. The judgment of the court is as follows. I am awarding the plaintiff $585 to fix his car. I am awarding the defendant $585 for the assault. That's a wash. Get out of here.
All these are excuses. Step out. You have my pictures and stuff? You'll get them.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's been coming home with injuries, saying words that 1.5-year-olds should not be saying, all sorts of things.
It's just all garbage, pretty much.
I got one thing to say. You sell marijuana to little kids in the neighborhood, and I know that. And that's all I got to say.
Leave me alone. I'm glad that this happened.
Don't worry,
Just
I've
leave
left
me
you
alone.
alone for a long
I don't
time,
love you anymore. Don't want you.
I pet the dog and he bit me.
Did you pull his ears?
Neighbors fight over who should pay for the scars left by a dog bite.
What happened to you in the hospital?
The doctor put me some stitches.
Your face is beautiful. It's going to be gorgeous. People aren't going to look at that. They're going to look at your gorgeous...
Courtroom, please. All rise. Now, this is case number 327 on the calendar in the matter of Matar versus Soria. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
You pronounce your name Matar?
Matar, yes.
Miss Matar, this is your little girl?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she was playing at a friend's house with your children.
Yes.
And that, unfortunately, she was bitten by your dog.
Yes.
This dog. And you seek reimbursement for your medical bills.
Yes, please.
There is no dispute that your dog bit her. It scratched her, is that right?
Right, there's no dispute as to that, no.
Well, then why don't you tell me why you don't believe you're responsible for the child's medical bills?
First of all, Your Honor, my dog, he's really good. He always has a problem with sensitive ears. And when the children started coming over, I make sure, and I told him, the dog is fine, just don't pull his ears. Because he'll react. He reacts to adults, he reacts to us. It's a problem that he's had since he was a puppy. He's now 6 years old.
Okay, so that I found interesting in your answer. You said that the dog has had a problem with his ears since he was a puppy. Tell me what kind of problem.
It's really hard for me to tell you. I taken him to the vet, and he says, well, he just has sensitive ears. There's nothing wrong with him inside that he can see that's physical. It's just a sensitivity that he has.
Well, what has the dog done?
He hasn't done anything to anybody before. What he's done, And my daughter can probably show you is if you grab his ears and try to extend them, he tries to move, you know, kind of bite off your hand off his ears.
So he tries to bite off your hand to let...
Because he is not comfortable with that. And that was something that I explained to the children, not only when they first started visiting, but every single time that they went to play with the dog. I said, you can play with him, you can pet him anywhere you want, just don't pull his ears. He's fine if you just, you know, touch him down, but if you extend them, he has a problem with that.
Hi.
Hi.
Veronica, can you tell me about the day that you went and played in the house where that dog was?
First, I went to my friend Christy's house.
Is that their house? How old is Christy?
8. 8.
And how old are you?
8.
Okay, sit still, okay? So you went to play at the house, and what happened?
I pet the dog and he bit me.
Where did you pet him?
On the head.
Did you pull his ears? You sure? You just went to pet him. Had you played with the dog before? Dog never bit you before. Where were you bitten, Veronica?
Over here and that.
Right over here where that mark is? Did it hurt? Did you have to go to the doctor?
The hospital.
What happened to you in the hospital?
The doctor put me some stitches.
Do you know how many stitches you had? And how long ago did this happen? A while ago? You know, my eyes aren't so good anymore. So I need these glasses to really get a good look at, you know, your face, because your face is beautiful. Right? Just had that little mark on it, so let me see. Come close to me. Oh, it's gonna be gorgeous. People aren't gonna look at that, they're gonna look at your gorgeous eyes. Right? I'm telling you. Okay. Why don't you go sit down? You feel better about going to sit down? Yes? Okay. Bird?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
It's obvious that it was in her house, it's her dog, and if she knows that he has a problem, keep him away from children. Don't give the responsibility for 8-year-old to know what she has to do.
And I understand what you're saying. The point, too, is that the responsibility of having a dog is almost, you know, the words that your husband told me was, well, what kind of people are you to have a dog? Well, I'm sorry.
Miss Soria, listen to me. You know, things get hot when you're in the middle of a dispute. I think that sometimes animals are unpredictable. And even though an animal has not done anything in the past, you never can tell when something is going to trigger some sort of aberrant behavior, like biting a child. Your dog, while you tell me that he has not bitten anybody before, clearly had a problem with his ears. Now, according to the child was not pulling his ears straight out, which is what you say causes him to act out that way. According to this little girl, that didn't happen. But clearly, someone is responsible minimally for the medical bills that these people incurred. Can I see your medical bills? Because as between this lady and you, it was within your home that this happened. So somebody is going to be financially damaged. And I'm not talking about the little mark that's on your daughter's face. That's going to go away, hopefully.
Well,
and
I have a report from a doctor that will scar forever.
Well,
she has 2 scars on her face, one on her cheek, one under her nose.
I just want to know what the bill was so far.
We paid $2,500 cash for the plastic surgeon to do her face.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know he has a problem, lock him outside.
But, you know, if you had
don't ruin a little girl's
we didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are.
And later today.
I mean, talk about losers. You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Micheline Matar's 8-year-old daughter Veronica was bitten on the face by Maria Soria's dog Pebbles and is suing for the medical bills. Maria claims she told Veronica not to touch Pebbles on her ears, but she didn't listen.
Mrs. Matar, I'm going to come to you. You seem like an intelligent lady.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that you knew that these people had a dog in their house. And an intelligent person also knows that when little children are around a dog, something can happen. Now, I'm not saying that you are responsible, but you clearly knew that they had a dog, right?
Things can happen anywhere you go.
Thank you.
Right.
That's my point too. When a dog bites somebody, regardless of where, when, and how, it usually becomes the owners of the dog's responsibility. It's almost a relativity here as to, okay, so by default, you know.
No, Miss Soria, you're missing the point, madam. The point is that you were, A, aware of the fact that your dog had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever tell that to Mrs. Matar?
No.
Well, you see, that's a responsibility that you have. Because then Mrs. Matar would have been on notice. And she would have known that what you knew about your dog, that your dog had a certain sensitivity. And then I would say, well, she assumed the risk if she let her children go to your house to play. You can't say that I'm telling an 8-year-old and therefore I've completely absolved myself of responsibility. If you told the mother, and after you told the mother, she said, dog looks perfectly fine to me, I'm going to let my children go over there, then she is, in at least in part, negligent. You would agree with that, right?
Yes, I do.
But you didn't tell her, and that was a mistake. Telling the children is not telling her. Now, they have medical bills now of $2,500. Somebody's got to pay for that. You had the knowledge about your dog. She did not. So you have to pay these medical bills, and the judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
What about the scars? I'm sorry, Your Honor. What about the other charges that I have to do another surgery for her to take out all the scars on her face?
Let me tell you something. Right now, to date, your medical bills are $2,500.
Okay.
Right? If you have additional medical bills, there on notice, they may be responsible. It may be that as your daughter gets older, this little mark that's right over here is going to fade.
I spoke to a specialist, which she
You
told
may
me that it
have
will
spoken
not.
to a specialist, but I'm telling you, as your daughter gets older, she's still a little child. Her face is going to grow, her skin is going to grow, and what looks like a 1/4 of an inch scar now may be nothing more than a dot later on, and you as a responsible parent might not want to put your child through an additional surgical procedure. So right now I'm giving you your medical bills to date, which are $2,500. Now you have to know, Ms. Matar, also, if you allow your children to go next door to a neighbor to play and the neighbor has a dog, a little dog like this, that looks perfectly harmless. There is always that risk. I don't think that there was anything malevolent about what the defendant did. I mean, according to what she tells me, the dog has never bitten anybody else. But you have a responsibility to tell the parents, not the children, of people that come into your house, that this dog has now bitten one child. Because the next time, if this happens to somebody else, you are responsible for punitive damages. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, out the back door to your right.
You know he has a problem. Lock him outside.
But you know, if you had
don't
three
ruin a little girl's
we
life.
didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are. You did not even bother to call to ask how my daughter was.
And now the next case.
Parties on Flubacher versus Phi. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Renata Flubacher says she bailed 19-year-old Courtney Phi's boyfriend out of jail twice and has not been paid back.
The defendant was a friend of yours, according to your complaint. She had had some trouble with her mate.
Correct.
Some domestic violence, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You had him arrested?
Yes, I did.
And then you thought better of it.
Yes.
So you called your friend and asked her to bail him out of jail.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I was unsure of it at first. I didn't know the procedures of what the law meant and what exactly. At first, it was just that she needed to borrow the money, and then it ended up she needed a co-signer, which was a lot more because I didn't know the gentleman. And of course, what I knew of him was all negative because of what
You
had
mean the
happened.
gentleman that she lives with?
Well, her boyfriend.
Her
yes.
boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you spend the first time to bail him out of jail?
I think it was $325 after all the court fines.
And you borrowed that money from her?
Yes.
You promised to pay her back?
Yes, I did.
And you haven't?
No, I haven't had a chance.
How long ago was this?
It was in May, I think.
Now then he got himself arrested again.
Right. He got on probation and then was arrested for the same thing pretty much, from what my understanding is. Not on her, but on somebody else.
He sounds like a real charmer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Renata Flubacher says she bailed Courtney Fye's boyfriend out of jail twice and is suing Courtney to get the money back. Courtney feels it's her boyfriend's debt.
What was he arrested for the second time?
Assault.
On whom?
Some guy, I don't know. Some guy he fought with.
And what happened?
He had called me from jail and was crying and telling me that he respected me, and that one of the main problems with Courtney and I was that he wouldn't let me see Courtney. He said that my friendship with her, that I had bad influences
Courtney?
on her. Yes. That I had bad influences on her. I've known her since 6th grade, and he pretty much told Courtney who she could and could not see, and he pretty much was just apologizing and saying that, you know, if I got him out again, that things would be different and that she could see me. Because when I got him out the first time, I pretty much didn't speak to Courtney again. You know, I didn't hear from her. She was at his house. I would call there. He would get upset with her, yell at her, tell her, you need to tell that girl to quit calling here.
You mean this is after
I bailed him out of jail.
After you bailed him out.
So he pretty much just begged me, and then he started saying some things about if his probation officer found out that he had violated his probation, he would go to jail for 6 years. And he was like, I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to go to jail for something I don't deserve, and something like that. So I called Courtney, and I was like, you know, Courtney, is this true? And from what she understood, it was all true. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you have another way to get him out? You know, do you need the money? She was like, yeah, I need the money, and I can't live without him, and I need him to be out of jail. And
did you say that to her?
I did say that.
You couldn't live without him?
Well, I did love him very much.
Sounds like a manipulative sucker.
Yeah. Well, at first he wasn't like that, but...
So how much did it cost you the second time?
It was $325 again. And this time with a lot more writing his, because I had to co-sign also again, because neither one of them know anybody who has any type of liability, and it was a lot more money this time if he didn't end up going back to court.
Did he go back to court?
No, he didn't. I ended up having to call bounty hunters on him to pick him up. He was supposed to go to court, and Courtney and him got in a really big fight within a week or something. Something blew up, and he was staying at his other girlfriend's house, and we had to call the cops, and we had to do all this stuff. And the bounty hunters came and picked him up and had to take him to court, and then he got put back in jail.
So how much did the whole exercise cost you?
It was a little over $900.
All right, Courtney, let me hear your defense to this.
Well, I believe that I owe her for bailing him out the first time, but I didn't ask her to bail him out the second time. And he's the one that asked her, so I think that she should be suing him for the rest.
Well, she did, in fact, call you after she got this jailhouse call.
Yes, and I told her if she wanted to do it, that I would like her to do it, but I wasn't asking her to do it.
You said, I'm not asking you to do it, or did you say, I love him and I can't live without him?
Yeah, I said that, but I'm not asking you to bail him out. She did say that, too. She's like, well, I'm not asking you, I'm just... She said something like, I'm not asking you because I know you've already done this once, and I know I already owe you money, but I love him so much, and I can't live without him, you know? And I was just like, okay, so do you want me to leave him in jail, or do you want me to get him out of jail? You know, this is up to you. And I told her straight out, I was like, you owe me this money, I can't stand. I don't like what he does to you, I don't like the way he treats you, I don't like the way he treats me as somebody who's helping him. And
Did you say that to her when you spoke to her on the phone?
Yes, I did. And
I mean,
when
did you
we
say-
went together to the bonds place, and I was like, Courtney, this is a lot of money. I was like, I've worked so hard for all this money. And
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a waitress and a full-time student. And I've been saving all my life. I was like, this is my savings, and you know, you will pay me back this money.
When did Prince Charming finally leave the picture?
About a month ago.
Under what circumstances?
I just couldn't take it anymore.
And he's going back to
and
jail.
he's actually wanted again, and I'm trying to help his aunt out because she's going to have to put up $14,000 to, if he doesn't turn himself in. So I'm helping her.
You mean he got somebody else to put up bail
Oh
for
yeah,
him?
his aunt
And he
bailed him
didn't
out.
show up.
And he
And
hasn't showed up, and
he
I'm the only one that he calls, so I'm trying to set him up.
Let me
so.
tell you what you should try to do. Change your number.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about losers.
Yeah.
You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I believe the plaintiff when she says she couldn't stand your boyfriend. Sounds to me as if she had good cause. He tried to come between the two of you. He's clearly abusive. He's unreliable. And yet, because of your friendship, she bailed him out of jail. Big mistake. Don't do it again. I'm sure you won't. You know, you're a hardworking gal, and if you have been diligent about saving your money, save it. You know, bailing him out is like taking the money and throwing it down the sewer. But there is no question that I believe that you assured her on both occasions that you would be responsible for this money because she was not relying on the boyfriend to pay her back. She was relying on you to pay her back. Your lawsuit seeks $800. You have to pay her. It's the right thing to do. Okay? Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy,
He's very violent. He's, I don't know how many times he's hit her and stuff, but he's very verbally abusive. Many times when I've called there, he's calling her names. I was really confused. I've known her pretty much all my life, and I was like, what is she doing with this guy? And then 2 days later, she said that she was still in love with him, and I was confused.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Unfortunately.
the director put up the money for a movie, but he says the producer blew it on personal bills.
And bought $80 worth of personal souvenirs from our star, Tippi Hedren.
Hey, shut up. Hey, that's not the way it's done out here in Hollywood, because everybody's very touchy-feely. Nobody says...
$63,000, Your Honor. Yeah.
63, it's even better. You hired the defendant.
No, I didn't hire her.
How did you come together with the defendant who also worked on this movie?
I'd known Miss Lee for a number of years when she lived out in Malibu. She had been a number of short-term jobs in the show business industry, and I knew that she had produced a short film prior to this. She had some experience doing it. So I asked her if she would volunteer to work with me, and she was quite enthusiastic about
But you
making
also
another
paid her.
film. No, I did not pay her.
There was some sort of payment involved.
No, none. This is a student film, Your Honor. Everybody, the key people are working for free on this for the experience and for the credit.
What do you do with the $63,000 that you gathered?
This goes for 35mm film, to rent Panavision cameras, to rent very expensive... Equipment, right.
And none of the actors who were in the film were paid either?
None of the actors were paid.
Okay. According to your complaint, she was co-signatory on the bank account that was set up to deal with this $63,000, and also did some of the purchasing, et cetera, for the project, and that she took without permission money from that account and also failed to repay certain loans that you authorized. Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, tell me about it.
We went through the class together, jumped all the hurdles, started making the film. We were chosen along with 4 other teams at UCLA to make the movie. She volunteered her apartment, the front living room of her apartment, to use as production headquarters. when the thing was getting going and underway, we got involved in the casting. She was helpful on that, working full-time. She had quit her job, her full-time job, after a pay dispute with her last boss. We got involved in the making of the film. I'm suing her on 6 different counts today for this equipment that was missing. I had to buy her a fax machine. She did not have one. I set up a fax line for her, a producer's manual, as well as a little accounting machine that she wanted. Miss Lee then sort of went Hollywood on us, unfortunately. She started taking herself to women in film luncheons. She took the other producer. She went to a full-day women in film seminar for $175 for networking purposes that had nothing to do with our motion picture. She went out to the Shambhala Wild Animal Preserve and bought $80 worth of personal souvenirs from our star, Tippi Hedren, a book about Shambhala and a film that Tippi had made. Had personal souvenirs, had nothing to do with this motion picture. As we were moving closer to production, she asked me to borrow the first month's rent, or February rent. I reluctantly agreed, but she was using her living room as a production office, so I said, okay. She asked me the same thing in March, the next month.
How much was the rent?
$500 a month.
So that's $1,000 that you
That's
say is a loan.
$1,000 loan. The notations are right on the checks that she wrote in her handwriting, saying...
I assume you have the check.
Yes, I do.
Because the first few things that you're talking to me about, well, with the exception perhaps of the fax machine, which is expensive, you're really talking about change. You're talking about $80 and you're talking about $100. You know, I mean, I know those are little things. But here we have... Wish I could see without my glasses, but I can't.
And it says her notations on the bottom saying, loan to Michaelina.
Uh-huh.
Not a gift.
Mm-hmm. Well, that you have to...
That's her handwriting.
I see that. Okay. What else?
During the course of the production, the actual 7 days of filming, Michaelina dipped into the petty cash accounts and was treating herself to extra meals on the way home from the set. Most serious, I caught Miss Lee stealing money from the production account. I noticed on March 6th, with a quick check that I did on my ATM machine, that on the second month's rent that she took for $500, which I had agreed to, she tacked $317 onto this. I asked her what the extra $317 was for, and she said she had some personal bills to pay that month, and she didn't want to break a certificate of deposit that she had in her savings account. She didn't want to lose the interest. I yelled at her and told her to put the money back in the account immediately. 1 week later, she wrote a personal check for $400 and put the money back in the account and said she would not do it again. 4 days later, she started stealing from me again. She had her own private account at the Bank of America. She linked her credit card to this production account and started making unauthorized cash withdrawals. This happened 5 separate times, from amounts ranging from $20 to $120. When I caught this belatedly, because your bank statements come in 2 weeks later after the month, she wrote another check, personal check, for $100 to put the money back in the account. And that same day, that very same day she put the $100 back, she wrote another check to cash for $70. With the $500 that she put back in the account, she is still $127 short on personal monies that she took out. I called all 3 producers together. Miss Lee handed me over all the receipts, unsorted in an envelope that we've been trying to straighten out since, and she was relieved of her financial duties. I have been trying to clean up this mess ever since.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you found that he was, as you say, futzing around and not doing things quickly enough, you say, goodbye, I have to go get a job.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Filmmaker Miles Swarthout says producer Michaelina Lee embezzled money from his film budget.
All right, Miss Lee. That's a long story.
It is.
However, I have certain checks that clearly indicate a loan.
That's true.
And I looked at your answer, and not only do you have an answer, but you have a counterclaim. That's... I was not impressed with. But your answer says, well, they really weren't a loan.
That's correct.
Then why would you write loan on the check?
At the time I took them, they were going to be a loan. Then, because we were also supposed to... By the way, we didn't rent a Panavision. We rented an Aton, just so everybody knows.
What's from Panavision?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway.
Type of camera.
Anyway. Hey, shut up.
Hey.
I'm sorry. Okay, anyway. We were supposed to film the movie in January. Okay, I don't have a trust fund. I got to work for a living. I've already done this once. I don't need the practice. I'm not a student. I mean, I was a student.
Just a minute.
I did it out of...
Shh. Then what did you do it for?
Out of friendship to him.
Baloney.
No, not baloney.
Oh, Miss Lee, listen to me. You don't quit your job and go into a project where you know you're not going to be compensated financially out of friendship. You know, you're not 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give me a lot of baloney. Make sure when you talk to me, I don't want to hear from you now. We gave you time, uninterrupted. When did this $1,000 become a gift rather than the loan that you originally said it was?
The first one became one in the beginning of February, right after I took the loan, and the second one became one almost immediately after I took that loan, too.
Well, explain to me how that happened.
He said, you're doing such a good job, you don't have to pay it back. And also because of the fact that we were supposed to shoot the movie in January, but he kept putzing around and changing the script, and he couldn't make up his mind which actress he wanted, and he, it was going on and on and on. That, I mean, I don't have a trust fund. I got to get money somewhere, and I couldn't work because of him.
Oh, no.
No, it was full time.
Miss Lee, we don't have servitude in this country anymore. So if you found that he was, as you say, futzing around and not doing things quickly enough, so you were going to be out of work for a longer period of time, you say, goodbye, I have to go get a job. Don't tell me you don't have a trust fund, which you've intimated in your answer says, well, he has a trust fund, so he doesn't have to work for a living. You are a grown-up lady, and if you didn't like the ground rules, all you have to do is say, listen to me, Miss Lee, I seriously question whether this man, who has kept to every last penny monies in his head, monies that you have allegedly taken in an unauthorized fashion, said to you, you're doing a great job, I'm going to forgive the loan.
Well, I have a witness.
Let me hear your witness. First, I hear witnesses' names.
Oh, excuse me. My name is Terrell Lewis. I was a production assistant Swarthout. We went, myself, Mr. Swarthout, Michaelina, and the other producer, Mr. Swarthout. We went, myself, Mr. Swarthout, Michaelina, and the other producer, Miss Green. We went out to dinner. I rode with Mr. Swarthout to that dinner at Jerry's Deli, and he did inform me that he was paying Michaelina's rent because she wasn't working. She was paying his rent and helping her with his tuition, with her tuition for school.
It was a school.
Tuition is one thing. Tell me the words that you remember that he said, sir.
As best as I can remember, he said, Michaelina hasn't been working. She's been working on this production all day. I've been helping pay her rent and helping her pay her tuition.
Okay. That doesn't say it wasn't a loan. But I understand what you're saying. He did, in fact, help you pay your rent by allowing you to make these loans. Have a seat. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
No.
Good. Have a seat. Thank you. Go ahead. Next.
Where were we?
Let's go to the fax machine.
Oh, the fax machine? That was supposed to be a thank you that I said, I have to do this with a fax machine. I don't have one. You have to buy one for me, and I get to keep it. And he said, yeah, no problem.
Did you ever tell us you could keep the fax machine?
I agreed to. I said it was going to be a gift to her if she'd done a good job on the production. I had given her a gift beforehand. I gave all 3 producers $85 free years gift memberships in Independent Filmmakers West for the good job they were doing before we started.
Mr. Swarthout, listen to me. it's really important that when you tell a story, especially when you appear to have a favorable response from the person who's hearing your case, that you don't embellish the truth. You did make her the gift of the fax machine. I cannot envision you saying to her, I'm going to make you a gift of this fax machine if you do a good job on the production. That's not the way it's done out here in Hollywood, because everybody's very touchy-feely. Nobody says, though, would say that. You would say, you're going to have fax machine as a thank you. Right?
No, I did say that, Your Honor.
No,
we were working on the incentive plan
No,
here.
you didn't. No, you didn't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She got what she was working for. She got the publicity.
Yeah, but no one wants to see the movie.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Student filmmaker Miles Swarthout says he used his own money to make a motion picture and that his producer, Michaelina Lee, stole from it.
Now, you took out money from this cash account.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were treating it as your own personal piggy bank. You were doing that even though you may have been putting money back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's correct.
But you were treating it as your own little private thing. You needed 20 bucks, you took 20 bucks. So you said to you, better put it back, and then you put it back. And then you took another 50 bucks, and then you put back 30 bucks, or you put that back 70 bucks. But you were treating it like a personal checking account, right?
To get gas money to do his film.
No,
Yes.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Well, if you were putting it for gas money, that's a legitimate thing that you can write
Yeah.
off to the company. We're not talking about that. We're talking about if you needed pocket money and you were a little short, you took out money and then you put it back.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, sure. All right.
Little
Honor.
teeny bit.
Miss
But
Lee,
most of it was
Miss
for
Lee,
gas money.
Miss Lee, the problem is when you take out a little bit, you see, and you're not 100% pure because you are using it in an unauthorized manner. Put your hand down. And you also feel as if, listen, they're using my apartment.
My car.
They're using your car.
My phone.
All with your permission. Right?
The permission was only given for the first couple months. It went on for 6 months.
Say goodbye.
I couldn't. I was enrolled in the class.
Say goodbye to the class. Say goodbye. I mean, you're not a 20-year-old student. Say
Not.
goodbye to the class. Say goodbye to the project.
You're
That's
right.
what happens when you make a film, Miss Lee. I mean, I'm not a professional in this industry, but you hear all the time. Right,
Judge,
Bert? It goes on, and the budget was $1 million, then it turned into 30 million, then it was 30 million, it turned into 100 million. It was supposed to take 6 weeks, it took 6 months.
The
You
next
hear that
film
all
I
the
did
time.
came in on time and on budget.
Well, you must have been dealing with some genius because it
No,
never happens.
he was normal.
Miss Lee, if you're saying that the plaintiff wasn't normal, then you say goodbye.
You're right.
So you're right. Now, also, Mr. Swarthout, is this the first film that you've done?
Yes, the first one I've directed.
Then you should know this. Budget is a very difficult thing, and if you think that any judge is going to sit and go through $11.17,
Right.
$20.19, $33.14 to try to come up with the exact figure that you say this lady owes you, you got another thing coming. It's part of the package of making a movie that you have to figure certain expenses. Petty cash is that what we're talking about, petty cash. Now, what she did was wrong, but I'm not going to go through all this to figure out who owes who 20 bucks. You understand that.
Right.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, she clearly owes you for her rent. $1,000 for her rent. She clearly owes for that. And as far as the fax machine is concerned, which is the only other major expense that you told me about, I believe that you gave her that fax machine, as probably well you should if she allowed her home to be used as the hub of your production. So I'm discounting that. Now let me just address for a moment your counterclaim.
Okay.
Because I will address it very briefly. In order to be able to counterclaim, you have to have an agreement. And you had absolutely no agreement with him with regard to your phone bill, with regard to rent for your apartment, none whatsoever, because you're counterclaiming for rent, a couple of $100 a month, right? Did you ever discuss that with him?
Yeah, it was on our original budget.
Rent for your apartment?
Rent for the office in my apartment.
That he signed off on?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Oh.
I don't think so.
I'd love to see that.
Shoot. I don't know if I have it. I brought everything except the original budget.
Can't help you there, Ms.
Yep.
Lee. Got to tell them, would you have written loan on your check for rent if rent was included in the budget?
No,
and with all those documents that you have, and the main thing that you're asking for here is money towards your rent, your countersuit is for the rent, and that's the one piece of paper you didn't bring where he agreed to pay rent on your plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Back door to your right, please.
She got what she was working for. She got the publicity.
But no one wants to see the movie.
She's also been branded a thief.
I think he's being overdramatic. It was loans between friends at the time. It wasn't theft.
I hope she never attempts to become a producer in show business again. I hope her industry career is finished.
The engagement didn't ripen into a marriage, and you broke up.
Now that the love is gone, the would-be groom wants back the money he spent on his never-to-be bride.
I think I deserve punitive damages.
I assumed that we were going to be married, and in the course of our relationship, that it would all wash out in the end.
I'm not going to go through all this. We're in 500 into a house together. The engagement didn't ripen into a marriage, and you broke up.
Correct.
You say she owes you some money.
She agreed at the time that we broke up to pay the phone bill, which was approximately 80% hers. While she did not work the 3 months while we were engaged and living together, she made numerous calls, and the phone bill equaled almost $500. And she made probably 80% of the bill, and she agreed at that time to pay for that. No, for the phone bill, and then, you know, half of the utilities, half of the rent. She only gave me $940 the entire time after we moved in.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Just a minute. Right.
And she gave me that $940, but the bills were considerably more than that, obviously. I mean, you know, what she should have paid, all told, is $1,371.19. That's if we split the bills in half. But I said, once you just pay the phone bill, she agreed to that. She was going to pay it after her first check from her new job. She had just gotten a job right at the time we split up, and she was to pay me at the 1st of August when she got paid, and she did not. Then she put it on, and she said, I'll pay you the next month. The next month came. She did not. In the meantime, I had to borrow money from my parents in order to pay the phone bill, which was $500, so I could get another phone later. And at that time, she didn't pay in September. She promised me by the end of the month. I called near the end of the month. She told me she had no intention of paying me. She didn't feel she owed me the money, and that I would just have to sue her.
Okay.
And
my first question to you, Mr. Bledsoe, is this. You say that during the course of the 3 months that you lived together, she should have paid you $1,371.
If we were to have half.
If you were to split the
half.
expenses. And she paid you $940.
Correct.
Which leaves $431 if you were to split the bills in half.
Correct.
And you say that she agreed to pay the $500 phone bill in place of that. So
Correct.
she's really paying $69 more than she should have.
However, I also paid one of her truck payments for $277.97 on my credit card, and she was supposed to pay me before the following month, before interest accrued on that amount, and she did not. And then the next month, she had another bill, and she wanted me to do the same thing, charge
Just a
my
minute,
credit
Mr.
card.
Bledsoe. So is what you're saying you forgave everything as long as she paid the $500 phone bill?
It was a settlement. It was nothing more than a settlement.
What I'm asking you is what you're saying that in lieu of the truck payment and the $431,
Yes.
that you were prepared to accept the $500 phone bill?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Now I'll hear from you.
Okay, Your Honor, we need to back up because when I agreed to marry Robert Bledsoe, who I loved dearly at that time, he had convinced me that I should quit my full-time teaching job.
I'm not interested in that.
Okay. Well, I moved to Alta Loma, where we rented a house. Okay, he borrowed $1,600 from his mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Richard Bledsoe. When I received my very last teaching check, which was of $1,400, I gave him $1,200 cash for the deposit. So he gave his parents a $1,200 cash, which left $400 that he had to give them. When things didn't work out between us, okay, I lost my $1,200 deposit.
Well,
But I have to say that I worked the entire time. I was a substitute teacher.
Just a minute.
And I have my pay.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because I read that in the answer, and Mr. Bledsoe, you seem to have left that out, although you do indicate that she paid for 3/4 of the deposit, the
Yes.
security deposit.
She did.
On the house.
Yes.
And that was lost.
Yes.
And that was $1,200?
The security deposit
Yes.
was at $825. Then there was $825 for first month's rent.
Well, let's not count the first month's rent because you lived there.
Right.
Let's talk about the $825.
Yeah.
But we had to come up with. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
She paid the $825.
No. Well, she paid $1,050, and then I paid $600, which equaled $650. $1,650, which was the full move-in.
So she paid more than you did.
Oh yes.
How much more?
At $400.
Okay. So she paid $400 more than you did, which she lost.
She lost that, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I cannot prove that I gave him cash, and that's a sorry thing that I didn't get receipts from my fiancé when we were going out because I assumed that we were going to be married, and in the course of being married, that it would all wash out in the end.
And later today,
Did you ever tell your sister that this was a gift?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
She probably can't even come today and look me in the eye and say that. That's why she's not here.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Bledsoe wants his former fiancée, Renee Lynn Bryant, to repay him for past due bills. Renee says he made her quit her job to move in with him.
Well, it seems to me, Mr. Bledsoe, that what's fair is fair. If she lost $400 more than you did, she has to be given credit for that. Don't you believe so?
Well, no, because I offered her at the time that we were about to split up. We agreed to stay together even after we agreed to leave the house. And we had to leave the house just because I had given them a check to pay for the rent that month in July, but I didn't have the funds. She only gave me $200 to cover that. She was unable to pay her half of the rent that month.
Now,
however, I was able to pay my half of the rent.
But that's my next question to you, Mr. Bledsoe, because I read your papers very carefully, sir. You say the last month that you were there, she gave you $200 towards the rent. You wrote out a check for the entire rent, gave it to the landlord. And how much was the entire rent?
$825.
But then you stopped payment on that check.
I had to stop payment on that.
What did you do with the $200 that she gave you?
Oh, I began paying bills. I began paying the bills. Most of the bills.
Just a minute. We've already talked about the bills. The bills were the original $1,371 that you said that you had all together. What did you do with her $200? Did you give it back to her?
No. She told me I could keep it.
Well, so far, let me understand
because
this,
she knew
Mr.
that
Bledsoe.
she owed me money.
right, but you can't keep owing you money if she keeps giving you money, sir. She gave you $200, all right?
That's
So
part
far,
of the 940. That is not in addition to the 940. That is part of the 940. The $940.
Oh,
I have just added up everything she ever gave me.
So you are giving her credit. The $940 includes the $200?
Correct.
Is
But
that
it doesn't
correct?
include
The
deposit.
It doesn't include the $400.
And it doesn't include the money that I made as a substitute teacher working for Altaloma, Cucamonga, and Riverside that I gave him cash.
Yes, it does.
Well,
just a second.
All you
just
gave
a
me
second.
was
You
cash.
can't prove that you gave him the cash.
You can't
Just
prove
a
that I
second.
didn't give- Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
All right. So we have $940, and I'm adding on to the $940 $400, which is the deposit.
However, it's $200 more.
She lost $400.
Right.
She lost $400. You lost.
I lost $200.
But you're already
Or wait.
getting. Just a second. You're already getting credit for that, sir.
No, she lost $600. She lost.
She paid $400 more than you did.
Right. She paid $400.
$400 more than you did. That's all that I'm interested in. Well, that evens out the $1,371. So now all we're down to is truck payment, $277.97. Do you owe him that?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Because I assumed since I had paid more the deposit that was his way of giving me back some of the money.
No, I've
But
given you
seeing-
credit for that.
Okay.
I've given you credit
I gave
for that.
him, you see, you're right. I cannot prove that I gave him cash, and that's a sorry thing that I didn't get receipts from my fiancé when we were going out because I assumed that we were going to be married. And in the course of our relationship of being married, that it would all wash out in the end. And I did, yes, Your Honor.
$277 is for the truck payment. It didn't work out, so you have to pay for your own truck payment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you had a $500 phone bill. Show me the $500 phone bill. Is this $1,300 that you gave me, including all the utility bills and everything else?
And yes.
Well, then it includes the
rent.
telephone.
Yes. I didn't say that it didn't.
I thought you had
I'm sorry.
an ending bill of $500,
No, when I
sir.
said utilities, I
Well,
was
I've already
including
taken
phone.
care of the utilities.
Mhm.
It's a wash. The utilities and her additional $497, not $1,100. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $277.97. Thank you. That's all.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I just want to forget about it all. But I want to say, you ladies out there, get your receipts for our cash.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Mackins versus Richardson. Step forward, please.
Hairdresser Terry Mackins is suing her brother-in-law, George Richardson, for a house loan and money for a stove. George says Terry is retaliating because he beat up her brother.
According to your complaint, you lent your brother-in-law and your sister some money.
Yes.
For house. And also sold them a stove.
Yes.
They refused to pay you for either.
As of this date, yes.
So first tell me, how much was this loan towards the house and how it came about?
I loaned my sister and my brother-in-law $700. My sister and my brother-in-law called me and asked me if I would lend them this money so they can go to closing on their home. I got cash. I got a check from my credit union account, got it mailed to me, and I got it cash. And in December, we had bought our own home. And our home, in our kitchen, we wanted to do our kitchen over again. We had a brand new kitchen. And we got rid of the cabinets, and we sold my brother, my brother-in-law and my sister the stove for $150, which was to be payable as soon as they got the money as well. So that's the $850 I'm asking
Well, tell
for.
me how the sale of the stove came about.
My brother-in-law was over our house, and we had talked to him about we were getting rid of certain things in our kitchen. And we told him we were selling the stove and how much we wanted for it, and he said he wanted it. And Reginald Bear, who's my witness, delivered the stove to their house.
Okay. So, what's your story?
Well, my had first given on a, well, we actually told her we was going to pay her back when we had a lawsuit and we was getting ready to settle. And we
What
said,
kind of lawsuit?
A car accident. And we were going to pay her back the money that she loaned us for the house. And Terry told us it was a gift. She gave us this money.
He's lying, Your Honor.
Just a second.
No.
Just a
she
second.
gave, and then she came back about, what, Day later, because she called. That's what she told my wife.
Just a second.
Sure.
Where's your wife today?
She's home. She's disgusted with the whole thing.
Just a second. You just told me that the conversation that she had allegedly was with your wife.
Right, and she...
Well, then I'm not hearing that conversation because that's hearsay.
So is disagreement with us giving it back to her.
No, sir. Shh. Sit down. I'm not ready to hear you yet.
No problem.
No, sir. You just acknowledged that your original agreement with her, when you called to ask her for the money, was in-law. She has lent you money before, and you have paid her back.
Plenty of times.
And you have paid her back.
This was a gift, Your Honor.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's lying.
And no.
No, don't speak.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Mackins wants the money back she gave her brother-in-law, George Richardson. George says,
What I'm saying to you,
I completely
you
understand.
first said to me that it was a loan, and you agreed to
I
pay
never,
her back.
I never... Okay.
And you agreed to pay her back. That was your understanding.
Right.
She gave you the money, and I assume you... And when you did that, the intention was to pay her back.
Right.
Now you tell me that she had a conversation with your wife who was not present. And your not present wife told you that it was a gift. That's what you just told me.
That's exactly what I said.
Right. Did you ever tell your sister that this was a gift?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
She probably can't even come today and look me in the eye and say that. That's why she's not here.
That is why she's not here.
Absolutely.
That's not
Absolutely,
true.
that's why she's not here.
That's not true. My sister, my wife is disgusted with my sister-in-law because...
Why did you beat her brother up?
Because he assaulted me.
Your Honor, this is why we're here in court today.
Why did you beat her brother up?
Because he assaulted me.
Your Honor, this is why we're here in court today.
Right.
This is why my brother-in-law is not paying me back, because I called him up the day after he fought my brother, and I kind of like told him about himself because what he did was not necessary. The whole thing is, George and Wendy owes me money, and I would like my money back. I don't have $700 to give nobody. I work very hard for my money, and I never told Wendy...
The stove get to your house?
The Reginald brought it over to my house.
Oh, okay.
Now, called me up and said, though, you want the stove? I said, well, look, I haven't talked to Wendy. Wendy's my wife. I said, I haven't talked to Wendy because we have gas. And I said, we have to decide Wendy, because Wendy was at work. So next day, he brought it over. And he brought it down and talking to Wendy about the stove. So Wendy decided, we both decided that, get the stove. I even had a cookout at my house. Reggie was trying to make me buy the stove. No, man, you gotta buy the stove. I'm like, what's up with this?
Speak to me.
I called them, told them to come get the stove. They would not come to get the stove. The stove stayed on my porch, Your Honor, for almost 8 months. So my wife stayed on my back just to get my wife off my back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't have to rush and pay me the $150, but I charged him $150 for the stove and $100 to install it because I am a licensed electrician.
Did you install it?
No, I did not. What I did, I dropped the stove off on his porch.
Well, how could he use it if you didn't install it?
Well, I told him when he's ready to get it installed, I would install it for him. So
he was in trouble, sniffing gas and all this stuff.
3 generations in court to fight over who took best care of the runaway teenager.
Your 15-year-old problem, you visited on your father and mother.
He punched him out, gave him a black eye.
No.
Today. Judge, this is number 417 on the calendar in the matter of Denault versus Denault. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, please.
All right, looks like the cast is as follows. You, sir, are the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son.
Yes.
Grandson?
Yes.
How old are you?
15.
Is this the grandson in question?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing your son for support, retroactive support, for a time when your grandson came to live with you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you tell me why he came to live with you?
Well, my son and his wife, ex-wife, called my wife and I and told us that they couldn't control Richard anymore and that he was becoming a street person and he was on drugs and not going to school. and they decided to get rid of him. They were going to throw him into court, I guess the ward of California till he was 18. They put him in a mental institution in Bellflower, California, and that's where we picked him up at. And my son and daughter-in-law, or ex-daughter-in-law, promised us that they were going to help us to support Richard. And we knew he had a history of drugs. And
when did you have this conversation about support?
this was about 1st of June or so, because we picked up Richard on the 12th.
Of June?
Right.
Well, tell me what the conversation was about support.
Well, that they would both give us $100 a month to help us take care of Richard. I told my son that I couldn't afford to solely pay it, so that's that I needed his help to help me with Richard, and he agreed, and so did Brenda, or Michelle, as she's well known now. And we went before a notary and we signed papers to that effect. I cannot find my copies. All my files are missing, and I don't know why.
You mean copies of papers that say he would pay you $100 a month?
Yes.
And you're telling me that that was in writing?
Yes.
Is that true, sir?
No, it wasn't.
So what happened with Richard when he came to your home?
Well, we tried to get him into school because he'd been out of school for over, I guess, 6 months to 7 months. He was flunked in the 7th grade. So I called the governor of Utah and asked them if they could help me to get Richard into some kind of a tutoring program. And I guess through him calling the school in our area and everything, I finally got him a tutor to help him through the summer to get ready for the 8th grade.
How long did he live with you?
Altogether, 11 months.
I
had him up until December 25th.
What happened in December?
Yeah, we met his father and his father's new wife in Caesar's Palace, I believe it was. And we let Richard reacquaint with his father, and we tried to talk to his father into taking him home with him for a week or two. And he did, and then about a week after he had him, or 3 days or 4 days, something like that, he called me back and said, I'm deciding to keep Richard.
And how long did he keep him for?
Well, he called me back in it's either January or February and told me he couldn't keep Richard in the house. He kept running away. He was starting to ditch school again, if he was in school. I don't think his father put him in school for at least a month or so. And then about a month after that, he called me again and said Richard was a runaway again. He took off in his underwear or his pajamas, I don't know which. And his father was looking for him, but it took him a week to find him.
And then he came back to live with you?
No, then he went to court, and he was being charged for 2 burglaries and a few other things. My son didn't want him anymore, so he had petitioned the court to make Richard a ward of the court until he was 18. They called me and asked me if I could take Richard back to Utah to save him from being a ward of the state of California.
And you did?
I did.
And how long did you keep him at that point?
I had him until October, I believe. My son snuck up and stole him from us.
What do you mean he snuck up and stole him?
He came up while my wife and I were at where she works, and then I get a call from my daughter saying that Rick had just come up there with a sheriff and took Richard with him. And then after that happened, we found a lot of papers missing, our files, a few other things, so I don't know if they prepared this prior to him coming up or what.
Okay, sir.
When Richard went to the hospital, his mother put him in there because Richard was living with his mother at the time. Brenda, Michelle, she came and told me that she put him in the hospital, and I said, well, ask Richard if he wants to come live with me. He said no. So Michelle said, well, how about if he can go with his grandfather? Well, Fred said, yeah, I'll take him. So Richard says, well, I'll go with him. So he went with him because Michelle was going to put him into a placement home.
When did you change your name from Brenda to Michelle?
About 5 years ago.
See, when I was married to her, she was Brenda. So I'm used to Brenda, you know, calling her Brenda. So my Fred took him to Utah with him. And he asked me, well, Rick, are you going to help me? And I says, well, if I have some money, I will send you some money. He says, okay. So he went up to Utah, and I was getting calls from Fred that he was in trouble, sniffing gas and all this stuff. We met in Las Vegas in December, and Fred said, take Richard with you. I want him to get to know you again and all that. I said, okay. So Richard was with me, and he was getting in some trouble with the law and stuff like that. So we went to court, and the court was going to put him into a placement. So Richard says, well, I'll go back to Grandpa's in Utah. So I called him up, and I asked him, I said, Fred, Richard would like to come back to Utah. And he says, okay, I'll take him back. He came down and picked him up, took him up there. And he was having problems with Richard. Richard was sneaking cigarettes, and he asked for the cigarettes back, and Richard said no, so he punched him out, gave him a black eye. And so I called up there, and I asked, how's everything with Richard? And he said, well, I just punched him out because he wouldn't give me the cigarettes. Then he mouthed off, and I hit him again. I said, you know, that's not right. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm tired of it. Excuse my French. I'm tired of it. And I said, well, try to understand him, you know. Then I called up again. Then he's over medicating him with Zoloft, 150 milligrams a day. And I said, why are you doing that? He says, well, I'm trying to keep him calmed down. And I talked to my girlfriend, my wife, and I said, well, you know what? Let's go up to Utah and pick him up. He's getting abused.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Stupid isn't written here, sir. They do not send you to NA meetings because you're on Zoloft. Don't say dumb things, especially to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 57-year-old machinist Fred Denault says his son, 40-year-old Rick Denault, owes him for caring for Rick's son, his grandson, 15-year-old Richard.
Well, just a second. Let's step back a minute. The judge in the court in California permitted your son, instead of going to a juvenile facility, to go to live with your father. Is that correct?
Yes.
He was released to your father's custody, not to yours. Is that right?
Yes.
So you had no right to go and pick him up because he was, in fact, released to your father's custody. Right?
Right.
See, I didn't even read those papers, and I know that. Bird knows that, too, because we've been around the block.
Except, didn't the court said they allowed him to go up there? Isn't that a different phrase? Allowed?
Let me tell you what they did in the state of California. They saved themselves probably $100,000 by not putting him in a facility here at taxpayers' expense. They said, we're going to make it Utah's problem. We'll send him to Utah to live with his grandfather. Let me first discuss with you, sir, your countersuit. I'd like to get that resolved first, which is you're suing for mental anguish for your son. You want $2,000. You don't get a penny. Nothing.
Okay.
Your 15-year-old problem, you visited on your father and mother. They had their own problems. I assume you weren't a piece of cake to raise. You have other children, sir?
Yes.
How many other children?
We have 3 others. And
They raised their children. You were having a problem with your child. So let me tell you what you did. You were having a problem, you and Brenda, Michelle, Sonia, whatever her name is. You were having a problem with your child. You couldn't deal with it. So you call your father. Help me out, take him. Then you take him back. While he's in your care, goes out and he commits a couple of burglaries. Now the courts are going to take him. The courts have evidently decided that you are not fit to take care of him, and your former wife, Michelle, Brenda, Sonia, is not prepared to take care of him. So they call your father with your permission. And he takes him. And he can't control him. Neither could you. So where you get this countersuit from? You've been reading too many fiction books. But let's get to your lawsuit. How much money did you send to your father in the almost year that your son lived there?
$100. Gift certificate for Sears, for JCPenney's.
How many children do you have?
How many do I have?
That was
I
my
have
question.
one.
This one?
Yes.
No, he has 3 others that he don't bother to claim or support.
Just a second. How many children do you have?
I have one.
You don't have 3 others? What is it? You don't
Well,
have 3
I have another child, except she got remarried and she had the child adopted from her new husband.
So that accounts for 1. And what about 2 more?
2 more?
2 more. You have 2 more?
No.
That you don't see. I'm not talking about that you see, that you don't see, that you support, that you don't support, that you have.
I have 3. Well.
So I assume that since you say you only have 1 child, that I don't even have to ask the question whether you don't support the other 3 children. What kind of work do you do?
I work for a company called West Sanitation, put air fresheners in restrooms.
Okay, and how long have you been working for them?
6 years.
How old are you, sir?
40 years old.
You know, there comes a time when you have to stop visiting your problems on your parents. You've got a lot of other problems. Meanwhile, the one major problem that you have was a 15-year-old child. You asked your parents to take some responsibility for him, and then you had some financial problems, and in a whole year, you sent them $100. You know, you can't feed a goldfish on $100.
Well,
But he says something rather interesting, sir, in his answer, which I'm sort of curious about. Did you apply for welfare for him when he was living with you?
Yes, I did.
And how much did you collect for welfare while he was living with you?
Esther, remember?
Excuse me.
I think it was 2 payments of $250. That was towards the end of '96.
Yeah, I only got 2 up to, they helped me out with 2 months.
2 months, and how much did you receive for those 2 months?
It was a total of 500, because it was $240 a month, so it was quarter $480.
Yeah, because Richard had a $1,200 hospital bill when he was sniffing gas.
Okay, but they paid that.
Right, that's how we had to go for this.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
If he cared, he wouldn't be doing what he did to him up there in Utah. Beating him up, you know, giving him too much medication.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fred Denault wants his son, Rick, to pay him back for caring for his son, Richard.
I have a sense that you haven't seen the last of this responsibility. But right now, it's your son's responsibility. You have a lawsuit before me, and I try to keep things simple, you know. The old KISS principle, keep it simple. Your agreement was for $1,100. You got $480. I am not giving you credit, sir, for the $100 gift certificate that you sent to your son for clothes. It's ridiculous. So I'm awarding you $620. What do you want to say?
He was not with him for 11 months. He was just with him for 9 months. 6 months in 1996 from June to December. Then I brought him back. Then he went back on 5/27 of 97. Then I brought him back 3 months after that.
Is that about right, sir?
Was it 5/27? I'm sorry, I'll stand corrected. It was 5/27.
Okay. So then we have to reduce this award by $200, making the award $420.
Can I say
Is your son currently under medical care, sir?
No, he isn't.
Why not?
He is, he doesn't need it. He is improved.
Is he in school?
He was going to a non-public school. Yesterday we had an IUP meeting. He is now going to a public school now. I have letters stating...
So he's doing okay?
Oh, he's doing 100% better. 100% better.
Well, that's very good.
He's an A and B student.
Good.
I have his report card.
You doing better?
Yes. And he's going to NA to get off because when he was with my father, he was on that Zoloft for so long. So the courts wanted him to go to NA to get off of it, you know, from the withdrawals and stuff off the Zoloft.
What? Stupid isn't written here, sir. They do not send you to NA meetings because you're on Zoloft.
That's what the
No. They send you to NA meetings, sir, if you're on illegal drugs, not if you're on prescription medication that you're taking. They don't send you to NA meetings. What do you, I mean, I'm not
Well,
stupid.
I know that, so I'm just saying that when I brought him back from Utah, we went to court, and this is what the judge put him.
The judge may have put him there, but not because he was taking Zoloft. Maybe because he was taking a little crack, maybe because he was taking a little cocaine, maybe because he was smoking a little dust. For all those other things, maybe he went to NA meetings. Does that sound right to you?
Maybe he was doing that in Utah.
Does that sound right to you?
I don't know about
No,
with
I don't
me.
know.
Maybe it was with him because I
Listen.
brought him.
Hey. When you sent him to your father the first time, you sent him there because he was doing drugs, right?
Right.
Ah!
Mother and I.
Yep. Mother.
Mother.
What kind of drugs was he doing?
I don't know. He was living with his mother
Well, you should know you're his father.
because they went.
You should know you're his father.
And he lived across the street from his son.
How could I figure that?
Sir, you should know. And they don't send someone to NA meetings because they're taking prescription drugs. Don't say dumb things, especially to me. But I'm pleased to see that you're doing better. Right?
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Seems to me that if it was recently that you spent some time with your grandfather and grandmother, even though you may not think so now, it may have been a good break for you, because if it wasn't for them, you would have been in juvenile hall, right?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And that wouldn't have been a very good thing.
No.
You wouldn't have liked that, right?
No.
So they really saved you from going to jail.
I went.
What?
I went.
You went to jail. They saved you from spending more time in jail.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you thank them?
Yes.
Do you write to them?
No.
Do you think you should?
They told me and my father they didn't want nothing to do with us.
I think your grandparents probably would like to hear from you, even if it's just an occasional note. You think you can do that?
Yes.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He doesn't care for Richard, his grandson. He don't care. If he cared, he wouldn't be doing what he did to him up there in Utah. Beating him up, you know, giving him too much medication.
He's very important. I love him. I wish he was still at our house.
I'm trying to get my son to take care of his son.
I am take care of him.
And he hasn't done it ever since the kid was 3 years old. He pays $50 a month child support, which is really a lot of money.